All right, Jimmy, how are you, buddy?
Good. What's happening?
Can you hear me?
Sure, I can hear
Oh,
you. Can you
well,
hear
let's see
me?
what's happening. I can hear you. Let's see what's happening. So, Abe, our producer, banged out today. He had an emergency at the last second. So, I spent the last hours trying to set up pictures for the show. And you know how much I hate doing it this half-assed thing because it's like, it's out of my man cave. I got to use these fucking earbuds. I don't have a microphone. I just can't stand it. And then plus we're against the public, the Republican convention, so it should be actually a very fun day. Um, that all being said, I wanted to say a few things. I caught you on Monday, and I got to give you kudos. I got to give your wife, Miss Karen McDaniel, kudos. Is she keeping the McDaniel name? I don't know if we discussed that. We might have.
Of course she is. Sure.
So she gave you kudos for being an encyclopedia in baseball, and I said, I got to give you a little bit of credit, man. I'll give her a little bit of credit. I mean, fuck, I don't know the last time my own wife has given me any kind of credit, so
Is
a
that
little bit
what
of
this
props
is?
there, man.
So that's what this is about. I got you. Very interesting. Well, did you get an umbrella on the 4th of July over your head at least? If you did, then she doesn't. She did something for you, right?
Listen, dude, I don't know the last time I ever got any props on anything, so I have no idea what to say.
Oh
Um,
boy, Grumpy Monty and his grumpy man
honestly.
cave. Uh-oh.
Well, now I'm trying to shoot out of here. My dog comes in the fucking room, knocks the door open. You know what I mean? And
There you
off we
go.
go.
There you
So
go.
let's talk. So let's talk about the hot property. I was a little surprised by that. I don't know. What do you know about Joe Hendry? You know
Joe
about
Hendry. What do I know about Joe Hendry? I know that he was a bit of a big deal over. What do I know about Joe
overseas?
Hendry? Why am I hearing myself? I know that he was a bit of a big deal over. What do
That's
I know
Monty's
about
great
Joe Hendry?
production, dude. Hold on a second.
Why am I hearing myself? I know that
How's that?
you can't make this. You can't make this. Listen, I'm just going to give you some free advice live as we are right now. Just do the minimal. Don't try to do too much, okay? Oh,
I
God.
Listen, dude.
I know
I've
you're
always
trying.
been a believer. If always given a believer, you got to test yourself under fire, right? Test yourself under fire. You have a few glitches, but then you know what? As the thing goes, it goes.
Okay.
Again, here's the thing you got to understand. I did not get a top level program because we pay for studio time,
Well,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
like, again, I'll share something with you. Like, let's look
Oh,
here.
no.
And actually, I have one for two. Now, these are not top level mics, but I have like two of them. One for you, whole studio thing wasn't working out. I didn't get the equipment because, all this shit costs money, right? So it's like,
Right.
I'm not going to pay for two things, but when you fall into a situation like your producer runs out on you, you
Yeah.
get stuck with, StreamYard Basic where, it's like a Teams meeting. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, talk to me about Joe Hendry.
It's like a Teams meeting. Oh, my God. I don't want your free food. Just fix my fucking car
Well, that's what it
window.
is.
That's great.
No,
What do I know about
it's
Joe?
really fucking annoying. I got to be honest with you.
Oh,
It's
man.
really annoying.
Well, here we are mustering through. We're just going to muster through. Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry, I guess, was
Who are you, The
sort of a
Rock?
big deal. Yeah, he was. Hendry was sort of a big deal across the pond, but I mean, I looked up his resume and I don't see anything. You know what I think about Joe Hendry? Not much. It he's reminding me of where we're at nowadays. All you need is some kind of catchy entrance, and the rest kind of doesn't even matter. And I'll use Jay Uso as a great example of that. What is so great about Jay Uso? Seriously, is he that great and engaging on the mic that I get a Hogan or a Flair feel? or even a Cena feel? No. Everybody just likes to yell yeet and go like this, you know? And in Hendry's case, they like the song.
Right. Right.
You know, he'll never be able to do what he was doing in other places because he would come out and do his own takeoffs of famous songs using the famous tracks from the original song. That's not going to happen in WWE. They're not going to pay royalties every time Joe wants to sing somebody else's song and do his spiel. That's not going to happen. He's a strong guy. He does have a
Well, I got to
legitimate.
tell you, his appearance on NXT was 1.2 million views, though, Jimmy.
Right. Right. Well, who am I to argue? You think I would be telling you not to send them out there? Of course I would. You know, it doesn't matter if I don't get it. If that's what the crowd is getting and that's what the crowd wants, ask and ye shall receive. I'm not denying any of that. I just think that it's kind of funny that it's just remember Glorious with Bobby Roode? My God, was that spectacular.
Yes.
My God, was that over? What happened? You know, am I saying that's what's going to happen with Joe Hendry? No, but it's reminding me of the fact that nowadays all you need is some kind of great catchy entrance so everybody can do their thing as the crowd. It's crowd participation. Yay, we all get to do this. And in Joe's case, we get to do this. Oh, boy, this is great. Man, it seems so simple. It seems too simple. You know, it's almost insulting to me. But then again, this is wrestling. It's not supposed to be taken seriously too much anyway. But I guess that's where we're at. So what do I think of Joe Hendry? I think he's obviously caught the eye of the public. We'll see how long it lasts. He is legitimate background, so it's not that. He's very strong. I mean, I watched him carry Moose around the ring in an inverted suplex position there. I was like, okay, he's very strong. Seems good on the mic, but, you know, it's weird. And this gets back to Jey Uso, too. It's just like, you know, you got these great entrances, but then out comes the person. And I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at Joe Hendry, and I'm going, that looks like a dude on the beach. He should be sitting in a lifeguard chair. I don't know. I don't see the over the top, like, wow, that's so engaging. I think that the intro is engaging, and the fans like to go like this. You know, it feels like, okay, we got some audience participation. Look, if that's what passes for big time today, that's what passes for big time today. We'll see what happens.
I don't know, man. I didn't get it at first. I got to be honest with you, Jimmy, but I have to say that the fans seem to like it. And I got to tell you, I started watching some of his videos, and he's actually pretty good, man. I just got to pick him.
I think he's okay. I mean, again, I don't think he's bad or anything, and I do get what he's doing, sure. But again, I'm not sold yet. I mean, let's see where it goes. We've seen other guys, you know, come out with great entrances and nothing becomes of it, you know. So we'll see what happens. I mean, he definitely should win the TNA title. I mean, I looked at his resume. He hasn't really won anything.
Look, now you're giving him the title.
Well, what are we talking? We're talking TNA. Well, you think it would be smart of TNA to not give him the title with all this attention?
No, you're right there. That's fair. I'm not going to disagree with you on that at all.
How do you think he would do if
John
he was
Cena?
full-time in WWE?
We spoke about it a couple of shows.
How do you think he would do full-time if he was in WWE, Hendry, full-time?
Well, I think they're setting him up for it, man. They're keeping him on NXT now, so
right.
You know, I think he has a chance. I don't know though. RJ Hudson says he was digital media champion. I mean, that makes sense. You know, I don't know, Jimmy. I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. I'm really not. I am intrigued a little bit.
Oh yeah.
To be honest,
I am too. No, I am too.
I am intrigued
He's
a little
interesting. Can't say he's not interesting, you know. So there is that. We'll just have to see where it goes.
John Cena, dude, we talked about that a little bit. What are your thoughts about John Cena retiring, but he's going to finish out 2025?
Well, I think it's cool that he's doing it. I am a little surprised that he's doing it, but I guess the real story, there is a story in there. He's going to be chasing for that elusive 17th title. I've never been a big fan of John, but how can you not at least acknowledge? Oh, I used the word acknowledge. You're almost supposed to do that for Roman. How can you not
That's
acknowledge?
pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not acknowledge John's career? Am I looking forward to it? It all depends what they do with it. I mean, it could be fantastic, but I've been burnt out on John for years. I was way ahead of the pack. I was with most people. I was with the Cena sucks people. Okay, So for me, it'll be great because they'll probably make it great. He's got the right people to work with. He's still John Cena. He's a superstar, so it should be entertaining. I am impressed that he's going to do a lot of house shows. I think that that's very cool. He's doing it the blue collar route, and I do appreciate that. But you must be really pumped. More importantly, how do you feel about it? You must be very, very pumped.
I gotta tell you, dude, I'm fucking so surprised at you right now in regards to Cena. Um, we're gonna play a little head to head. Do Cena versus Flair, right?
Yeah,
I think it's definitely a good time.
yeah.
Again, if I don't jack up the production, as you see, Jimmy, the production is getting a little better as I'm drawing up
Hey, it's
pictures
John Cena and Ric Flair.
and
Hey,
trying to hold a
you're
conversation with you.
fired.
Um, I, I'm a little disappointed that you said you burnt out on Cena.
Why wouldn't I
The more
be?
and more you think about it, Cena is probably one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's definitely on the Mount Rushmore. He carried like he him. I think you could. Would it be fair to say Cena and Hulk Hogan carried the WWE on their shoulders at their time when they were champions?
Uh, yeah, yeah. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I do. I can't add
If
much
okay,
more to it
my
than
next.
that, but
I
I,
think we
I think
spoke
that's
about it.
fair.
We spoke on another show very casually, but I believe you felt that the WWE was going to give Cena the elusive a 17th championship, right? Which would make him the most champion in history. We also know that Randy Orton is one behind 16, and I think Charlotte Flair is probably only four behind, right? And they did
Yeah,
take the
Rand.
NXT title, but I'm kind of
Right.
veering off the point. If if Cena wins that belt, does Cena become the greatest champion of all time?
To me, no. It means that he won the belt the most times, but to me, no. I still feel that the greatest and most important champion in WWFE history is Hulk Hogan, and I will always feel that way because of the fact that it,
Well,
it
forget.
started with,
How about
it
forget
started with
about that?
nothing and turned into everything. 9 straight WrestleManias, et cetera, et cetera. No, I still think Hulk Hogan is the greatest. It's not always about how many championships you win in pro wrestling. This isn't baseball with the Yankees with their 27 championships. This is not baseball. This is professional wrestling. Um, so no, I won't look at him as the greatest pro wrestler that ever lived. If that's what you're getting at, no.
But okay, but you mentioned WWE. Forget about WWE. How about
Yeah.
just in wrestling history? I mean, does he become greater than Ric Flair with that 17th title?
Well, when I saw that we're gonna have Ric Flair and John Cena head to head, I actually got a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach because we're probably going to wind up really yelling at each other during this one. Uh, do I
We
think that
might.
he'll be great? Do I think that he'll be greater than Ric Flair? I think success wise, merchandise wise, monetarily wise, numbers wise, yeah. But will he be greater than Ric Flair? To me, no. No, he will not. He will not be greater than Ric Flair. And That's all comes down to personal opinion at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? It's just it'll be my opinion that Ric Flair is still a greater all around everything, especially in his prime. Circumstances and marketing and everything else aside, which is really hard to do. But I'm just going by how I look at wrestlers themselves, not just what they profit or what they don't profit or whatever. I will probably still look at Ric Flair as the superior product, and that's my opinion. It's my opinion on it.
I think I think I have to call you out on that though, Jimmy.
Well, I
You
figured you
kind
would.
of no, but I think you're kind of, and again, we don't want to get into the head-to-head portion. I don't want to go into the whole mic thing. We'll get into that. But you're kind of
Right.
like giving me a softball here. It's like, okay, I am better. That's fair. I can't argue that point. That's your decision. But you have to give me reasons why. Is it because Cena only worked for one organization? Is it, what would the
Well,
main
well,
reason be that
well,
you feel
well.
he's that way?
All of those things will come into play when we do head to head. So I don't want to ruin the head to head segment because part of that falls into that. If you understand what I'm getting at, all right. So
Right.
basically, again, it's just my personal opinion. We can get into the particulars when we start the head to head because the head to head is going to be an absolute slobber knocker, not to quote JR. And it's not a softball answer when I gave you the answer I just did, knowing who I'm speaking with and how much you love John Cena and knowing what John Cena is to the WWE. Since we're both diehard WWE fans, I don't think it's a softball answer I just gave you. I just said that I feel that Ric Flair is greater than John Cena. There ain't nothing softball about that, So it is what it is. That's just how I look at it. I feel like Ric Flair is. One more title, so what? Do I think it's going to be great? Yeah. Do
All
I
right,
think it's going to be dramatic if
hold
he
on.
does it?
Luce is saying
Yeah.
Cena might be 9 or 10 for me, but no higher. Still amazing and a great role model. So we value that in too.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Let's just talk about our Mount Rush. Let's talk about the legit Mount Rushmore, historically. What's the word you always use? Like, not relevant, but historically accurate, or no love, no
Right.
feelings behind it, just actual factual.
Right.
Give me your Mount Rushmore.
Of what? Of wrestling all time or of the WWE?
Wrestling all time.
All time. Well, that changes everything. If we're doing about
No
WWE,
feelings.
then
No
Cena's on it.
feelings.
Of all time, Hogan, Austin. Very interesting. Of all time, Cena.
Can I ask you something about Austin? How does Austin make your list being hotness? Like his time was literally 3 years, that window.
Yeah, I understand that. I stretch it out a little longer than that. I feel like it's from 96 to 2002. Yes, there was injuries and stuff like that, but I still feel like Austin catapulted the business to an even higher level of success. The Attitude Era was insane. It was absolutely insane. So Hogan and Austin to me are obvious. I think it's wrong to ignore Cena. So I think Cena would probably be on a Mount Rushmore. Again, that's not my personal opinion you're asking me for. You're asking me to be historically responsible. And if I'm being
historically responsible.
If I'm being consistent, the fourth one becomes a shootout between The Rock and The Undertaker, and I'm probably going to have to say The Undertaker if I'm being historically responsible. If you understand what I'm getting at, But that's about it.
I do. Best podcast says Cena was spoon-fed titles due to marketing value and commercial view. He's a showman, but that's I mean, with all
That's
respect to
wrestling.
Best Heel Podcast, that's what it's
That's
all
wrestling.
about, right? It is about marketing.
Right.
It
Right.
is all about that.
This
isn't real sport, okay? It's an imaginary sport which is made of characters and ideas, and right. So Best Heel Podcast is actually supporting the fact John Cena should be on the Mount Rushmore.
Right.
I got to question you too, though. You brought the Undertaker. How can you put the Undertaker on there? Why?
Well, if we're basing it off success and we're basing it off longevity, then I'm not too sure anybody can even parallel the Undertaker, because you're talking about decades, of WrestleMania, top shelf matches, the streak, everything that he's brought over all the years. He's the one consistent out of that company through the ups and downs. If I'm being historically responsible, I'm sure Vince has him on his Mount Rushmore. At the end of the day, I mean, you're going to tell Vince that he's wrong about his own company? Well, he's been from time to time, obviously, but you know what I mean? He's been from time to time, but he certainly wasn't wrong about The Undertaker. The Undertaker's one of the greatest ever. If he's on anyone's Mount Rushmore, it's not exactly, like, what do you mean The Undertaker? It's not like I threw Frankie Williams up there.
I honestly got to be fair on this. I would say, I think at this point, if you're going to do a Mount Rushmore, you have to do it by the eras of wrestling. And
right,
if I'm going to be historically responsible, and again, I would have to really draw this out, but I would say number one would either be Bruno Sammartino or Gorgeous George. I have to think about that, but you understand where I'm coming from that, right?
Oh, now you're the
and
scholar.
Then I would think
that's very interesting.
Well, the next would be Hulk Hogan. And the next to me would be The Rock. Okay, I understand Stone Cold, The Rock. I just think the longevity of The Rock passes through. And then you go to John Cena. But here comes the problem, Jimmy.
Yeah.
We're now in an era of wrestling where it's very, very, like, it's hot. It's big time, right?
Right.
Where does Roman Reigns fall into that mix? It gets
right.
very dicey. Hard to believe one of the most famous. Everybody knows who John Cena is. Everybody.
Right.
You go 100 people on the street, you ask who John Cena is, 100 people know who he is.
But is that because
even after all this time, I bet you that if you ask 100 people who Ric Flair is, you nod at 100%.
I would agree with that, but is that because John Cena is a Hollywood's movie star? That every single person knows who he is.
Absolutely.
The same way they know Hulk Hogan. Everybody knows who Hulk Hogan is. He was a movie star. Well, not a very good one, but he certainly started it with Rocky III. That's how the whole thing really kicked off,
Hang in there, man. Of course, my computer battery's dying. So,
I thought the dog took a poop on your mouth.
Boy, I'll tell you something. If we ever decide not to, like, if I ever decide to, like, just back off the studio, I really got to up my program room, because this is like a nightmare. And I got to tell you, I hate it. I feel like, again, I don't know if people know who Lee Cole is, but I feel like a Lee Cole right now, and it's not a good feeling. So shut up, Jimmy. Lately, I've been watching or listening to Vince Russo. I know, a little shocker. I'm a little shocked myself. Today, I don't know. Last week we spoke about podcasts. Now he was calling out, people like Brian Alvarez, Denise Sal. You know what Denise Salcedo is?
No, can't say I do.
Jimmy, I gotta get you up to par here. So,
okay.
The reason I'm saying that, because again, we speak about this all the time. It is somewhat of a competition. At least I hope we're still trying to compete. Denise Salcedo is probably your old girl. She's a fan, just like us. All good. She's got this tremendous following. She's on Busted Open, and like Brian Sapp and Alvarez, Sportskeeda. They're all trying to bring her in because she has all these followers, dude. And
Okay.
yeah, Russo was talking about all these podcasts about people are fans who do them, but they were never in the business. And he basically was telling people, look, you could listen to, but you're just listening to a fan and their opinion. And I started thinking about that, right? I was like, does someone who never put on a uniform, Jimmy, know about the sport? Take it out even out of wrestling, right? Do they have legitimate knowledge of the sport that they should be respected and taken seriously? And if you want to keep it to wrestling, keep it to wrestling.
Well, I can't keep it to wrestling because the first thing I think about is when Boomer Esiason, the former great Bengals quarterback, and then later on with the Jets, he always says that we don't have a clue what we're talking about because we never played football, so we don't know. And right away, Mike Francesa comes into my mind. Now, whether people are a fan of Mike Francesa or not, I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is Mike Francesa is a sports machine. He knows everything about it. He understands it. His analogies are well thought out. He's intelligent, whether you like him or not. He has a great understanding of the business. Just because you never were a wrestler doesn't mean that you don't understand what goes on. I don't have to eyewitness. We've talked to over 100, getting probably closer to hundreds now, of guys who were in the business, and they have certainly filled in a lot of our questions. I think I have a pretty decent idea how the business goes. We've seen it on independent house shows. We've known independent wrestlers. We've seen the different levels. You know, you'll never have that actual wrestler experience if you never wrestled, and I completely respect and understand that. But to say we don't know anything, well, that's kind of ignorant, especially considering we're the ones who put the money in your pocket. You know. If we didn't know what it was about, we wouldn't be paying for it.
I wanted to ask you that because I'm kind of torn on it. You understand where I'm kind of torn on, right?
Okay, spell it out.
If you didn't play the game, what you watched is my point. Jimmy, hold on one second because now I want the chat to answer this question. So,
okay.
Lucis. Just hold on, because he's just a jerk. Good God, I hate myself, Jimmy, sometimes.
Jesus Christ.
One day I'll be a good producer. How about that? Shut up, man. Okay.
Angry Monty.
You can weigh in here, too, so
yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to rear you. So Luce writes, Denise Salcedo is a hottie. And RJ Hudson says, you're right, Luce. Now, I got her on the screen. I don't know if you could see her. She's not a bad-looking girl. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if she's a hottie. You tell me, Jimmy.
Okay, let me spell it out for you. Is the face that I'm looking at, the real question is the face I'm looking at enough to make me flock like sheep to hear her opinion on wrestling? I'm going to go with a big fat N-O.
Yes, good. Okay,
how's that
how
sound?
come?
How come? Because I don't care. I don't care what her opinion is.
I love it, but how come?
I can't even explain it. How's that? It's just a gut feeling. I'd rather listen to Bubba Ray talk all day long. I don't need to be. You know what?
All right.
I'll go further.
Okay,
I'll go further.
So now this is where I'm challenging you.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Here's what I challenge. We discussed whether you played the sport, you have a right to speak about it. I think you agreed that a fan or coach or someone who's done something can speak to a sport. But
sure.
Now I pop up Denise Salcedo, and what you say to me is, if that's her, why do I want to listen to some fan girl talk about wrestling? So now I got to kind of corner you. I want you to explain. Explain, Lucy.
There's nothing to be cornered about. You asked me what I thought of the comments from the chat. The chat was commenting on her looks.
Right.
I made an observation on, are those looks enough for me to just blindly tune in to get her opinion? And my answer was no. Okay. Now, as far as what she's got to say about wrestling, I've never heard her. So I would have to sit and listen to her before I can give you that answer. You understand? Consider the rat out of the corner. All right. Because again, I answered what the people were observing on the chat. All right. I answered that.
Gotcha.
All right. As far as what she goes, I've never heard her. I've got no idea if she's interesting or not. So I ask you, is she a good listen, or is she the one that you told me about when you were with Mrs. M, where she was like, could you please turn this woman off? Her voice is annoying the shit out of me. Is that the one?
That is the one. That is the one.
Okay. So I ask you, since you have heard her, you've seen her and heard her, is she good?
So I'm having a midlife crisis wrestling podcasting deal,
Okay.
and I'm being honest, man. Okay, I am.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
I'll tell you why. I think I know what's good, but like I tell you, I see these shows out there, and I'm shocked that people are watching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to name shows. It's just getting old because I just keep going back complaining about the same shit. Okay?
Right.
So, again, Lou says the picture I showed was not giving her justice. So here's another one. So notice a few things. No nails, okay? In fact, those hands look hacked up like they were in a meat chopper. I'm being serious here. Is she a bad-looking girl? No, she's not a bad-looking girl, Jimmy. But like you said, like I'm not flocking like sheep to go listen to this ditz talk about wrestling. And I got to tell you, on the talent level, she's a ditz. Now, I'm sure when people watch this tonight, tomorrow, they're going to like, who's calling Denise a ditz, this fat, bald guy? I believe myself, I believe you have 10 more talent in our pinky than that. So my point was, okay, she must be good looking, right? Because that's got to be the attraction. She's got to be hot, right? I mean, let's be honest here. And I'm not trying to be a sexist, but a lot of these women that do these wrestling podcasts, they're always doing it with three things. That do it with their face and the two things sitting on their chest hanging out as they're telling you about Finn Balor playing, a video game.
Right.
I mean, I know, Jimmy, you don't always watch this stuff. You go to the more artsy stuff, but and when I mean artsy stuff, I mean stuff like that. Guys that are putting a lot of stuff behind it, right? You're a big fan of the What a Day Joe Lowry show, I believe, right?
Yeah, like if I was a fan of anal disease, I would be a fan of the Joe Lowry show. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I had to throw that in there. But I guess my point is, all right. So wait a minute. All right, hold on. Jason says, Lou says, Denise's talents are no threat at all. No sweat. Thanks, Luce. Luce is always very nice to me. Jason Morning, who is she? I missed the beginning of the conversation. Jason, it's basically this, is that Vince Russo was on complaining that if you're a wrestling fan and you're listening to fans talking about wrestling, that's fine, but you're really just listening to fans talk about wrestling that weren't in the industry. And the question I brought to Jimmy was, does someone who's not in the industry of wrestling, and let's not leave it wrestling, baseball, football, basketball, if you know channels like ESPN, Fox, Fox Sports, they're bringing more and more females onto it, right? Because the general audience is men like most of us, and we like to watch attractive females. But, if you talk to my father, he doesn't feel that women have any right to speak about men's sports. I mean, it's kind of an old school thought. I honestly feel that you can learn stuff just like you can learn politics, you can learn science, you can learn social, you can learn history. Jimmy, what are your thoughts?
Mike, let me put it this way, just in case anybody reads me the wrong way, and I would like to think you'll agree with what I have to say, so I want to make sure nobody reads either of us the wrong way. I'll use an example going back to my dad, and I will never forget it. There was a football game. It was the late 70s. And out of nowhere, I hear my father, who never cursed. He's staring at the set, and he goes, "What the fuck is she talking to me about football for?" And I was like, "What is he watching?" And I walked in, and standing there was Phyllis George. Phyllis George was the first of what we see many of today. Okay, Phyllis George did not know the first thing about football. She really didn't belong there. My father was right about that. It's like, what are you even doing here? Why are you talking to me about this stuff? You're just a prop. And that's what insulted my father. Now, years later, when Susan Waldman came around to do Yankee games, my father wasn't offended by her. My father was like, wow, she knows her stuff. She's really good. And if I can use a wrestling analogy, Renee Young, she's great. She's great. Okay? Either you come across as a prop or you come across as genuine. When I sense that you've just been placed there so you could flash your boobs and talk to me about something you can see through the performance, that you don't know anything about it and you're just a prop to look pretty in the camera, I don't have any use for you. I want to hear from Susan Waldman. I want to hear from Renee Young. I never wanted to hear from Phyllis George. I agree with my dad. So it's not being sexual towards them. It's just, if you're right for the job, I salute you. If you've just been placed as a prop, you insult me. How's that sound?
Well done, Jimmy. I mean, it's a great explanation. You come off,
Got nothing
you know, PC, which is very good. I will say, again, I understand why people like Renee Young. Me personally, I've just never been a fan. I don't know why.
I think she's great.
But that's just mine.
I think she's great. She comes across genuine. She comes across genuine to me. She's excellent at what she does. She always was. And she comes across like she truly loves it and lives it, because she does. I love Renee Young. I think Renee Young's everything that's right about having a female commentator. Everything that's right about it. You know, she's way better than plenty of guys I've heard do commentary, just in case anybody wants to run liberally ballistic on us. All right. You know, I mean, it's really about whether you're genuine or not, whether you really belong in the role you have. So as far as this person goes that started this whole conversation, I'll listen to her. I'll let you know. You know, but as far as looks go, let me tell you, and I think you know me by now, she could have been a 10 and I still wouldn't have fucking flocked. I still wouldn't have, because that's not how I was raised. I wasn't raised that way. I'm after what's on the inside. Sure, it helps to look good on the outside. I'm not going to be a fucking bullshit artist, but I'm really after what's on the inside with everybody, you know, in general. I can't say much more than that, brother.
What do you thought IWC? And if you don't know what that means, Jimmy, I'll give it to you.
What, the internet wrestling community?
The internet wrestling community. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's just like an asshole. Everybody's got an opinion, and most of them stink. I mean, I stay away from most of it. You know I do. You know, because people read almost everything as just pure truth when they read off the internet. Oh, it must be true. Nay, I wasn't raised like that. I was warned from an early age to not just believe everything I'm told, but at the same time, I've kept my principles intact where I'm not, you know, asking for statues to be removed. You understand what I'm saying? So it's just, you know, I think for myself, but I also know what's important as far as that goes.
I want to go back to Russo a little bit, because I was just thinking about you and me, right?
Yeah.
He was just talking about like everybody, right? And they're just fans,
right?
And
well, that's a crock of shit, by the way.
You have the people that watch it that have their opinions on the internet wrestling community.
Right.
Do you think podcasting in all genres, forget about just wrestling, but we'll stick to wrestling because we're a wrestling podcast. Do you think it's become too competitive?
Is too much competition a bad thing, Mike? I'm asking you.
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
It's not.
Okay.
Right.
It's just where we're at nowadays. I mean, anyone and everyone can do it. Look, we had guests come in who had never entertained the notion, saw us doing it, just fans, by the way, saw us doing it and ran off to do their own. All right. So, I mean, we're just in a day and age where anybody can have a show. So I guess when you open up Pandora's box, you cannot be surprised that all these snakes came flying out of it. You really can't. Am I surprised by it? No. Do I
So
like it? No. What am I going to do about it?
I'll share with you and I haven't really spoke this week, but I'll share with you that Marty Jannetty called me, I think Sunday night about midnight, but I was sleeping already,
Monty,
and he wanted to speak to me about a few things. There you go. I got to tell you, Jimmy, I swear to God, I've never heard Marty sound better when I finally spoke to him.
Awesome.
All right. Yes.
That's great.
It was.
That is great.
It was I even said, dude, you sound so fantastic. But anyway,
Mike, I got to tell you, I hate to cut you off there, and it is old stuff, but I was just, recently, my grandkid was over, Kai, Wahoo's grandson, and he wanted to know more about our show. And I told him the Marty Jannetty story, and he wanted to see it. So I actually sat for the first time in 5 years. I sat with Kai, and I played for him Marty's first appearance, where he's covered in flour and an absolute mess. We know the story behind that. And then I showed him the second appearance where he got up and he gave you a wallop in the mug, and it was amazing. Even then, it was amazing the difference between Marty Coherent and Marty Plastered. So I think that's awesome if you're telling me Marty is sounding better than ever, because Marty is a very smart guy. We both know that. So I'm just very happy to hear that he's doing well. But it was pretty wild watching Kai's face watching this stuff. He was like eating it up, absorbing it, It was different, that's for sure.
I love it, man. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So Marty wanted to speak to me about his podcast because, I don't think he'd mind me telling the story. They're struggling.
Okay.
And why?
Welcome.
Well, I want to ask you, and again, so if everybody knows, right? Me and Jimmy, we talk, maybe 3-4 times a week, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time it's about personal life, about his life in Florida and my life in New York, and either we're happy or we're bitching about something, and it's not necessarily about a person. It just might be about the weather or whatever, right? Whatever old men talk about,
Great. What? Go ahead.
But
Jesus,
when we do talk business about the show, me and Jimmy are usually aligned, but in some cases we're not aligned, right? And I'm on a mode right now where I'm getting pissed off. I keep repeating it, that I'm seeing these podcasts. We talked about this last week. I still haven't gotten off it. That I don't find them entertaining. Like, there's certain people I find entertaining. I get it. But I go, how the fuck? So, again, I don't want to, stick on this Lee Cole thing, all right? But it's starting to bother me now. The guy has one subject, okay? He brought Joe Lowry with him, who used to be on this channel. Everybody knows that Jimmy doesn't care about Joe Lowry. Everybody else on the channel could care less about Joe Lowry. Mike Monty hates Joe Lowry. I hate him. I hate him to my core, okay? But that's my own problem, right? But anyway, how does a Lee Cole program do better? A possible borderline Hall of Famer, really should be a Hall of Famer, the great Marty Jannetty. How is that channel doing better than Marty Jannetty when their subject is about Vince McMahon and all lies? I don't understand it, Jimmy, and it's killing me. Listen, I'll be fair. We had Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. 10,000 views. We had Wendy Rick. They're good interviews. They're not shit interviews, okay? They're great interviews.
Right.
Fuck good. They're great. and then there's Lee Cole. Look, someone mentioned WSI. Okay, here's the deal. Who was it? I'm sorry. It's RJ. RJ. I'm not stupid, right? Me and Jimmy talk about the kid from England too. The kid's talented, okay? I'm not stupid there. I get it. He does canned video. He was smart.
Mm-hmm.
He got Dutch Mantel. If business checks out of it, he's a smart businessman.
Yeah.
WSI and Lee Cole shouldn't even be in the same subject line.
Not at all.
Okay?
Not
All
at
right,
all.
so
Mike,
I'm handing the ball to you, Jimmy. Tell
the
me
problem.
what my fucking problem is.
It's not. Look, your only problem is that you're concentrating on something that I see as obvious. Okay, we're living in a day where isolated hate of a certain subject, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's Vince McMahon, whether it's Israel, whatever it may be, isolated hate and concentrating on that isolated subject to hate on is very in right now. Very, very in. Okay? Everyone's choosing sides, not realizing that through division, we're getting subtraction. All right? I'm smart enough to see all of that. I apologize for having complete clarity when it comes to the human race, but I can see very clearly. All right? It's an absolute disaster. And the reason why Lee Cole is able to, week after week, get people to jump on board is because he's concentrating on his isolated hate for Vince McMahon. And there are plenty of sheep more than willing to follow straight into the water with the concrete brick tied to their ankle. Okay? It just happened this past week. I'm seeing comments on the internet regarding what happened over the weekend. It's sickening. Absolutely disgusting. Isolated hate is running wild, brother.
Well, we'll cover that at the main show, dude. We'll cover that.
Right. I got you. The main point, though, Mike, is that it's obvious. It's isolated hate, and it's something that everybody that is on board with that program can jump onto. Hate is very popular nowadays. Another warning sign coming from above.
Speaking about Mr. McMahon,
Yeah.
a spokesman lawyer, as far as there is a petition out, Jimmy, that Janelle Grant put against the Vince McMahon's wellness doctor. The story is basically this guy, Dr. Coker, who has helped out. He's a huge professional athletic guy. He's a proponent of steroids. He's a proponent of natural health, eating, things like that. Vince goes to him regularly. So I guess when he was in that, he sent her there and he would pay for her visits. Okay. Anyway, I'll read this to you. Miss Grant's petition of the pre-action discovery against Dr. Coulter is a direct violation of the court-ordered stay and nothing more than an attempt to generate publicity on her false allegations to harass people connected to Vince McMahon, who's being sued by Miss Grant in a separate matter. The facts are that Miss Grant told Mr. McMahon she was fatigued and asked him to recommend a doctor. Miss Grant called Dr. Coulter of his. Her statement is inconsistent with the prior remarks. Miss Grant never had anything but good things to say about the doctor when speaking to McMahon about it. Thoughts on this one, Jimmy?
Well, I'm a little confused here. What is the situation with the doctor? She wants the doctor to testify on her behalf or something, or to not testify because it goes against what her agenda is. Which is it?
Well, I think she's filing. Understand it right? And people could correct me on that. I think she's also filing a separate lawsuit trying to prove that that Vince. I'm sorry. That she's claiming that the doctor drugged her for years and she wasn't of clear mind. That's why she could not get out of her relationship with Vincent Kennedy McMahon. So she's now bringing up, and she's also claiming that the doctor, from what I understand, had sex with her.
Oh, okay. So for years, this is very parallel to Vince. So for years, she went to this doctor for free took the medications, loaded up on them, and now she's decided it's everybody else's fault again. She's very consistent with blaming everybody but herself. That's what it sounds like to me. And now the doctor took advantage of her too, huh? That she got a stool sample from the doctor. Dr. Doolittle. I'm serious. Does she?
At what point is this? At what point is Jimmy? When is this going away? And let me ask you this: should people be held liable for going on the internet saying that they've got inside information and this is coming down and this is going to happen when they're basically lying?
Well, it's the old fake news, isn't it? Isn't that fake news? Sounds like fake news, which is very real.
All right, let me challenge you a little more. Let me challenge you a little more. Throw rocks at a man with a machine gun. Do you think someone who's a convicted kidnapper and someone who admitted to being a superior drug user and suicidal have a right to comment on the Vince McMahon situation? Of course, they have the right. It's free to America. But do you feel that you should feel stupid to even comment on it? How's that?
Well, whatever that person feels is obviously.
By the way, Cannaby, and I hope I'm saying that right, buddy. She needs to take a polygraph, guys.
Yeah. Well, obviously, someone with that sort of background tells themselves a lot of lies every day to get out of bed. I would hold no stock in that person, but that's me. Again, like I said, if you're picking an isolated hate agenda, there's going to be plenty of idiotic, brainwashed people that are going to run alongside with you. You know? I don't think that this is the sharpest knife in the drawer, and I certainly wouldn't be reaching for it to carve my steak. So I wouldn't take it seriously at all. Unfortunately, others do. I can't change their minds. If that's the song you want to listen to and you like out of tune music, go ahead, knock yourself out. Just give me earplugs. Let me know when it's over.
I mean, it comes a point where, I mean, I saw a video out there where they were talking about Macho Man Savage, Stephanie McMahon. It's like, at what point does this shit even matter anymore? Seriously.
At what point do you think that the person telling you this information has any valid information anyway? I think that that's the most insulting thing of all. How the fuck would you know? You know? The only one who really knows is Stephanie, and if she confided in anybody else about it. Macho's gone. His brother's gone. You know, they're gone. You know? So the only one who would really know is Stephanie, and if she ever confided in
Lanny
either.
the story with us? Did Lanny ever share that with us?
He might have skated around it. I would certainly think that if he had said anything earth-shattering, it would be available on our video library.
Good cheap plug there, buddy. All right, main subject here. Has Liv Morgan bypassed the popularity of Rhea Ripley at this point?
No, but she's doing a damn good job. No, Rhea's still the shit.
Why?
But Rhea is still the shit. Look at the reactions she gets. Rhea's great. Rhea's still the greatest of the greatest right now. But Liv has done an incredible job. Look, I'm a fan of Liv's now. I wasn't before. I love Liv Morgan now. I think she's great. I'm actually probably rooting for her against Mommy. How you like them apples? You know? I like what she's done.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, Liv Morgan's won me over with all this delicious heel work. She's great. She's great as a bad guy, a heel, whatever, a bad girl. You know? She's awesome. I'm enjoying it. You know, I think it's going to be, you asked me if I thought it would be main event worthy for SummerSlam. Sure, why not? You know? I mean, Cody's going to wrestle Solo. Which match is more interesting to you? Rhea and Liv or Solo and Cody?
You know the answer to that already.
Right. It's the same answer as mine.
I don't even have to say it.
Right. Rhea and Liv. Right now, I'm more interested in that storyline. You know? I think it's better.
All right,
do you
dude.
think Liv walks out with the title? Do you think Liv walks out with the title, or is this Liv
Liv is walking out with the title, bud.
Wow.
Liv is walking out with the title.
Very interesting. Okay. Cool.
All right,
that
dude.
Make me happy.
Here we go. We're going head to head. For fans that have not seen this, can you please explain the rules to head to head?
All right. Well, thankfully you put them down on this piece of paper for me, so I think I'll do all right. Went. Category 1 will be mic skills. Mic skills, obviously. How good are you on that sledgehammer of yours? Can you keep the people engaged, or are they running to the bathroom? Category number 2, mat skills. Goes without saying. Can you put on a great show, or are you just a punch and a kick? Category 3, back of the baseball card. It is what it is. I mean, how many championships have you won? Where did you win them? How did you win them? Blah, blah, blah. Well, not really how did you win them. This is wrestling. So basically, how many championships, et cetera, et cetera. That's the back of the baseball card. Category number 4, overall influence on the industry. What kind of imprint have you left behind, or other wrestlers copying you? How much did you change the business? Yada, yada, yada. And category number 5, it factor. With a mere glance, do you keep me engaged? Do I look at you as something better, special, different, or all of the above? That's the it factor. So there it is, Mike. 5 categories head to head, and we'll see who wins.
And that was well done, sir. The only gripe I have with you is you're a very unforgiving host, as you know that your partner is learning to produce better because he's from home, and you blasted through that, and I couldn't get the fucking screen up fast enough. But besides that, your description as a partner, you weren't the best. But hey, what can you do?
Jeez.
All right. So head to head, my friend. The great Ric Flair, number 16 World Championships, has held WWE titles, NWA titles, has traveled the world against the 16-time champion of John Cena. But John Cena has only worked for one organization, and we all know what organization that is. That's the WWE. And that's the story, and I'm sticking you down before I hand this over to you. But the first category is maybe, to me, the most important, but we don't do it weighted here, and that is mic skills. John Cena or Ric Flair on the mic, my friend?
Have we had draws in the past? I think we have. I know you hate that. You're probably going to tell me no right now, but have we had draws for categories in the past? I didn't catch that.
We have many times, yes, sir.
Okay, I wanted to make sure. I'm going to give it a draw. I have to. This is one of the most impossible matchups we will ever have. I cannot say with a straight face that Ric Flair or John Cena are better than each other when it comes to the mic. If I had to lean towards one of them, it would probably be Flair. But when you're comparing a Ruth to a Ruth on a microphone, it really gets kind of silly. So I'm going to say it's a draw.
So, Jimmy, I'm going to shock you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to agree with you. This is a draw. It would be impossible to make that decision. There's not an A and an A minus here. They're just both A's. I have to give it a draw also.
They are. I hate to do it.
All right, next up, mat skills.
Flair.
Mat skills, my friend.
Flair for so many different obvious reasons. Flair's just a superior in-ring worker. It's not close. John's always been serviceable to me. John's fine. John's solid at what he does. Ric Flair, not even close. Ric Flair is one of the great in-ring wrestlers of all time. It's Flair. Period.
Sure. So right now, it's not what you thought. It's 1-0 because we have a draw in the mix.
Right.
So I agree with you. All right.
Right.
I know I'm jumping out of space here, Jimmy, but the next one would be back of the baseball card.
Okay, this is another very, very difficult one. It really is to me, because it can be argued passionately for either side. It really can. The amount of championships Ric Flair has won in his lifetime is absurd. It's ridiculous. And territorial championships, too. And you know how important those were, Mike. It's not just the 16 world championships or the many times United States champion. There was the Mid Atlantic, there was Georgia, there was all these other places. All right. And then there's John. And John won all of his titles in front of the biggest audiences in the world for the biggest company in the world. There's that. So again, I have to go with a draw, and it's painful to me to have to try to pick between the two because they're both the finest examples of the back of the baseball card from their genres. It's Ruth and Ruth. I won't do it. I can't do it. I just can't. I don't think one completely blows the other away at all. It's not one of those circumstances, you know. When you factor in John Cena's run from 2004 to now, with the audience and the growth of the company and everything else, versus Ric Flair and the audiences and the territories and all the titles and traveling and being the guy willing to do it. Because as we know, when we had some heroes on of ours, why didn't you ever want the title? I don't want that responsibility. Ric Flair always did. No matter what kind of lush he was or whatever he was doing behind the scenes. Didn't matter. The ultimate company man. He was. He did everything they asked of him. He went everywhere they asked of him. He won everything. It's a draw to me. The two time periods cancel each other out because it's ignorant to ignore the great past. And to me, it's ignorant to ignore the great career of John. I can't do it. It's a draw.
To add on to that, they're both 16-time champions.
Right.
I would say that you might want to give the edge to Flair just for the fact that he wrestled in multiple organizations and had a tougher, I don't want to say a tougher schedule, but I think as we did on the first one, I'm going to give it a draw. So Flair has it, 1-0 right now.
1-0.
Then we're going to do the overall impact. I'll open this one up, okay? And then you can follow. Overall impact on the industry. Ric Flair had a huge impact on the industry, but let's be honest, it was regional. It was Mid-Atlantic, it was Florida. John Cena impacted the world. He made the difference in the industry. When we said Matt Skills went to Flair, this one, and it was a blowout, this one's a blowout. Cena, overall influence on the industry is undeniable. Ric Flair's greatest achievements came well after the fact when he was retired as an old man. He became more famous. So I think this is John Cena in a blowout. Jimmy?
I agree. I do. I agree. John Cena's impact, look, every wrestler now, and The Rock did start this trend, but Cena made it something where then Edge followed to do films. Many others followed to do films, okay? John Cena is the blueprint for what every aspiring young wrestler wants to be today. They want to make it in the WWE. They want to be champion. They want the love of the company they work for. They want the adulation of the entire world. They want to have a legendary, they would love to get into movies. John Cena is the blueprint for what every wrestler probably wishes they could live through. John had the dream career. He really did. And no, he didn't have to pay a lot of those prices that Ric Flair had to pay. But as far as the impact on the industry, it's pretty obvious. John Cena is not to go full circle, is a prototype. You see what I did there?
Very good. That was pretty good. I like that prototype. All right, dude. Yep. 1-1. This is it. Down the line. Now, we didn't really argue on so far. So far, we're pretty copacetic with each other.
Yeah.
It factor. It factor.
Yeah.
It factor.
Uh-huh. Flair.
Wow.
I'm going by the eye test, Mike.
Cena.
I'm going by the eye test. When Ric Flair in his prime would walk into the ring with those robes, with that hair, with that tan, with that nose, everything about Ric Flair, just huge, immeasurable it factor. Now, of course, my prejudice is coming in because I never liked John Cena's gimmick. Doesn't mean that it wasn't great. It was. Doesn't mean that it's not a legendary gimmick and it suited him perfectly. It was. It's just not my idea of it. All right? I get it. He does have huge oodles and oodles of it factor. But on my eye test, when the two of them are coming to the ring, if we're talking about in their prime, Ric Flair, and that's not Rick in his prime, by the way. Ric Flair, to me, in his prime, had more it factor than John Cena. I'm talking Starcade Ric Flair, obviously. Ric Flair's it factor was huge, and I'll use another example. When Flair finally got to the WWF and for the first time stood in front of Hulk Hogan, and he's looking up at Hulk Hogan. He's looking up at him, so he's already at a disadvantage on size. The second he opened his mouth, Hogan came right down to his size, if not shorter. Ric Flair is it in the dictionary for professional wrestlers. A prototype built off of Gorgeous George and then just enhanced like you wouldn't believe. I think Ric Flair had one of the greatest presentations in the history of this business. So I'm going to say Ric Flair, but no one would be wrong to pick John.
So I hear what you're saying, and you gave a great case. Unfortunately, I have to disagree with you. Ric Flair, in the greatest organization, the WWE, failed miserably his first time here. I understand they gave him the title. I understand he had maybe the greatest Royal Rumble win, right? I get all this. But to consider Ric Flair's run here, the first round as being successful with telling revisionist history. Ric Flair's better turns in the greatest organization was well after his career was on the back end. Now, Ric Flair, the jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, whatever you want to call him, definitely has it factor. But John Cena, with his 24-inch arms, his superhuman strength, his rap on the mic, and again, it factor. Kids loved John Cena. The guy host Make the Wishes out there. That is part of wrestling. So I don't think it's a blowout, but I have to say, to me, John Cena wins this head-to-head battle. But, folks, unfortunately, if you've never watched this show, which you have on head-to-head, Jimmy is the star of the show. So if it turns out this way and it's that close in a tie, then guess what? It goes to Ric Flair. So Ric Flair wins head-to-head here, Jimmy. Not a bad show. Not bad for this old man trying to do a little production. I think I really getting it down now, but this won't be the norm. We shoot out of a studio, so things will be better, and obviously my mic will sound better anyway. All that being said, stay for the main show. We're back up in a few minutes here, and we'll be on our way. Jimmy, you want to send us out?
You've been watching This Week in Wrestling, and we'll see you in a few minutes on the main Monty and the Pharaoh show. Later.